creating the organizational structure. Once you've installed Microsoft CRM4, you'll no doubt want to start setting it up to mimic the structure of your company. Now, if you're a small business with only a few people, then you'll be pleased to know that you probably won't have to do much, if any, sort of configuration, since CRM should be set up properly right after you installed the product. But for those of you that do have more than one business unit in your company, then you'll have some configuration to do. Now, in Microsoft CRM, your organizational structure is built by creating business units. So if you already have some sort of organizational chart produced for your company, then you should use that to build your business unit structure in Microsoft CRM. Now, if you don't have an organizational chart, you should take some time before you start installing Microsoft CRM to decide what business units you have or what functions you perform in your company, and then use that information to build your organizational chart. That way, you can build your organizational structure in CRM right the first time. Now, one thing I should point out before we get going though, is that once you've created the first business unit in CRM4, which is known as the root business unit, you can no longer change it. So if you haven't installed CRM yet and you're preparing to start, I can't stress this enough, make sure double and triple check that you've spelt the name correctly, since you can't rename it or delete it or even disable it. So it's worth taking the time to ensure that you got it right. So in Microsoft CRM4, a business unit is any part of your company's organization that's under your root business unit. And this could be a division or a department within your company. Now, like with the root business unit, any other business unit that appears under the root business unit can't be renamed or deleted, but they can be disabled. So again, the same rule applies. Make sure of your spelling when you create a business unit, or you'll be forced to leave it there in a disabled state, or just simply accept the misspelled name. All right, well, let's move on and see how we can create an organizational structure in Microsoft CRM4. So in CRM4, from our navigation pane down here on the left, we'll choose Settings, and then we'll select Business Units. Now notice here that we do already have one business unit defined, which is the root business unit that we created when we installed CRM. So any business units we now create will be underneath our Winstructor root business unit. But before we create a new business unit, let's edit our existing one by double-clicking on it, since you'll notice that a lot of the fields here aren't populated, so we really should fill in all of these fields first. So for the website here, I'm going to enter in www.winstructor.com, and we'll hit tab to move over to the next field, and we'll enter in a fictitious phone number here of 999999, and we'll add in a fax number as well. And let's add in an email address. We'll just call it headoffice@winstructor.com. Now, if we click on the addresses tab, let's enter in a fictitious address, and we'll say 300 Madison Avenue. And the city there will be New York City, and the state will be in the state of New York. And if I know my postcodes correctly, that should be 10,001, and of course that will be in the United States. All right, well now I'm going to copy and paste all of these fields here into our ship to address, so everything's the same. All right, now that we're done, up the top of this window here, we'll click this button here to save and close this record. So let's go and create a new business unit. So up the top here, we're going to click on the New button. And let's give this new business unit the name of Sales. Now notice here that the parent business unit has already been populated with the name of our company, so we don't have to tell CRM about it. All we need to do is fill in this other optional information if we like. So let's just populate this with some bogus information like we did with our root business unit a moment ago, since I always think it's easy to understand things better when you have most of these fields filled in. So for the website, let's just enter in www.winstructor.com/sales. And for the main phone number, we'll enter in just a bogus number here. And we'll do the same for the fax number. And let's also enter in an email address here of sales@winstructor.com. Now we'll select our addresses tab, and I'm going to enter in the same details as before, and I think that was 300 Madison Avenue, and that was in New York City. And that was in the United States. So again, I'm just going to copy and paste all of these fields in here. So we'll make our ship to address the exact same as our billing address. USA. All right, and everything's been filled in. So again, we'll click on Save and Close. Okay, now that we have one business unit defined, our sales business unit, we can now proceed to create our support business unit and our marketing business unit and whatever else we need to mimic our company's organizational structure. But remember, each of these business units may have sub-business units as well. So for our sales business unit we just created, we might have a corporate sales department and a web sales department. So let's go and create a new business unit. So we'll click the New button, and I'm going to call this one Web Sales. Now for this parent business unit, we don't want it to appear underneath the Winstructor root business unit, so I'm going to click this little search icon here. And we'll select our sales business unit, and then we'll click on OK. And now you'll see that our web sales business unit is going to be reporting directly to the parent sales business unit, which in turn, of course, reports to the Winstructor root business unit. All right, well, now we can proceed to fill in all the other fields as required. So we can simply enter in a website address here. So we'll say winstructor.com/sales/web for argument's sake. And then we can just fill in some more information here. Now, rather than have you sit through watching me fill in all of these address fields here, I'm just going to pause the video and I'll enter in this information and we'll be back once that's done. All right, well, I've just filled in the address information the same as our other records, so we'll click on Save and Close. All right, so now that we have our root business unit, we've got a sales business unit underneath that, and then a web sales business unit. So now you can see how we've gone from our paper-based organizational structure to implementing all of this in CRM. Now, you may, of course, run into situations where you need to move a business unit underneath another one or disable them completely if they're no longer required. So let's see how we can do that. Well, in the case of our web sales business unit, let's assume that this department no longer is managed by the overall sales department. And if we need to move it, we can do that quite easily. So let's say we need to move our web sales business unit directly beneath the Winstructor root business unit. Well, if we double click on web sales, you'll notice here that our search icon next to our parent business unit of sales is grayed out and we can't select anything. Well, the solution is to be found up here in the Actions menu. So if we select that, the bottom menu option here is to change the parent business unit. So we'll select that and then we'll click on the search icon here. Now we'll choose our Winstructor root business unit and we'll click on OK. And then OK again. And now you can see it's changed to reflect that we're now pointing to our parent business unit of Winstructor. Now, the other thing that we can do is to disable business units if we no longer require them. Remember, we can't delete business units. We can reassign them to a different parent like we just saw, but we can't rename them or delete them. Disabling them is our only other option. And Microsoft force you to disable these business units rather than delete them. That way, they remain in CRM for historical purposes. So again, if we click on the Actions menu, we can choose Disabled, and we will be reminded here that any child business units of this one will also be disabled if we choose to proceed with this change. So if that's not what you want, click Cancel and then reassign any child business units to another parent. But when you're ready to commit to this change, simply click on OK. All right, now if we close this window and then refresh this screen by clicking on these little green arrow icons here on the right-hand side, you'll now notice that our web sales business unit has gone, since by default, this screen only shows business units that are active. So if you do want to see what business units are inactive, simply choose this drop-down box here on the top right and change it to show inactive business units. And there's our web sales business unit right there. In this video, we've talked about creating your organizational structure within Microsoft CRM4. Obviously, as you've seen, it's a very easy task to perform within CRM itself, but the hardest part is ensuring that you have in fact got it right, and that's not really a CRM issue, but an organizational issue within your company. So if you're the person that's charged with setting up CRM, you'll need to ensure that the organizational structure is correct before you commit it to CRM. That way, everything will be built on a solid foundation that's right from the start. We hope you've enjoyed this video and would like to thank you for supporting Winstructor.